Welcome back to my channel, Maps on the Map. Maps on the Map. My name is Maps. To those who don't know me, I am a South African currently living in Shanghai, China. Welcome to my channel. Welcome. So last time we did a study on Exodus. We looked at Exodus 1 and we looked at some of the things that happened before Moses was born, like the killing of the babies, enslaving of the Israelites, and all of that. It was just a lot, right? So today we're going to do Exodus 2. So we're going to read Exodus 2. Get out your Bible, whether it is physical like mine, or on your phone, however you use, whatever you use to read. Let's get in the word. Exodus 2, the birth of Moses. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. And she saw that he was a fine child. She hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, for him, and coated it with tar and pitch. And then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. Maybe, you know, it was such a discouraging time to even get married. Like, it's like, what is the point? I'm gonna get married, and what if I have a child and it's a boy, and then I have to like get rid of him? So maybe it's not a good idea to get married. We don't even know like during this time how people felt about marriage or not. But this is a man who is a Levi who decided to marry a Levite woman. I don't know how that happened. If he saw a girl and he's like, hey, what's up? And she's like, hi. He's like, I'm a Levite. What about you? He's like, me too. You single? I'm single. Let's do this. They got married. She got pregnant and she gave birth to a son. And I can't even imagine what that must have been like. Like, you're just excited, you got married and you get pregnant. So it's the excitement and also the fear of like, if it's a boy, I have to let go of him. But she had a child, and when she looked at the son, she was like, this is a fine child. Oh, it's so cute. I can't part ways with you. It wasn't like, I think the also interesting thing is like, this mom didn't look at the child and be like, wow, you could be something important in the future or whatever. Like, she just looked at the child and just saw that it was a fine baby. And so she decided that she is going to hide the baby. I'm not even sure how she managed this. So maybe Moses was a good baby who doesn't cry a lot. But she was also a handy woman, because I mean, she basically did that. She made a waterproof basket, made sure that it won't sink, and made sure that water won't like seep into it. So maybe she used like her mind to like soundproof the house or something. But she managed to hide him for 3 months. And his sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Okay, so she has a sister, which means Moses was not the first child that they had. So this is an older sister. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe. Of all people, and her attendants were walking along the river bank. She saw the baskets among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This is one of the Hebrews' babies, she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? Yes, go, she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you. So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. Okay, so this is actually quite interesting because Pharaoh is the same guy that ordered the Hebrew babies to be killed, right? So Hebrew baby boys to be killed. But then his daughter ends up at the river. So like it's like the enemy's daughter ends up at the river and sees the boy child. And she's like, oh, he's so cute, because he was crying, and she feels sorry for him. And she asked, perfect opportunity for the sister, because she was there just watching what will happen. Sometimes curiosity pays off, hey? Like, this sister was just curious to see what's going to happen, and her curiosity is what led to her brother being saved. And her staying in her brother's life, because she's the one who was brave enough to say, hey, I know someone who can help breastfeed the baby. And also knowing Pharaoh's daughter, like, she is smart, right? Like, she is just like, I think she's smart enough to know that this could be the mom of the child, and just be like, yeah, it's okay. Or maybe she's just like gullible, we don't know. But the moment she sees the baby, she knows that it's a Hebrew boy, because she says, this is one of the Hebrew babies, and she felt sorry for him. And for me, what makes me wonder is she clearly knew the situation, so she understands that maybe the mom was trying to protect the baby, so she got to keep her son, essentially, and she got paid to keep her own son. That's another crazy thing. Like, it wasn't for free. Like, she got paid to take care of the son, and we don't know if Pharaoh's daughter would go now and then to visit him, most probably, because he's going to be the son, right? And also, we don't know a lot, but this is the first time, actually, I see adoption in the Bible, because Pharaoh's daughter clearly adopted Moses, and she named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water, which is literal, like, because she literally took him out of the water, but she also saved him from possibly being killed, because let's say one of the soldiers saw him, they would have been like, hey, you should be dead, and like, throw him in the Nile. One day, after Moses had grown up, he went to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. So Moses knew who he was, like, he knew his identity. Looking this way and that, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Ooh, Moses. The next day, he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew? The man said, who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. He's trying to like break a fight amongst his people, his own brothers, I guess. And they just look at him like, dude, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You're a ruler over us. And I guess it also must be tough because, like, thinking of him, everyone knew he was a Hebrew, but he was raised in Pharaoh's house, so he didn't have to be a slave. He had a lavish life, most probably. He was royalty, right? And then for him to come, like, it's like they didn't want to hear any rules or anything from him, because it's like, oh, so you think you're better than us now because you are up there? We're all the same people. So, like, it's just that anger of like, oh, now you are trying to be better. You are trying to do this. We know what you did, Moses. And it's like, if they know, like, this thing might get into, get to Pharaoh. If Pharaoh knows, what will Pharaoh do? When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Oh, so in the end, Pharaoh finds out. We don't know how he finds out. Someone went to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh's like, what? Moses did what? Bring him here. I want to see him dead. Or whatever he said. But Pharaoh must have been mad. Like, this child. Like, we saved his life. We brought him up in this house. And he dares kill one of my people. How dare he? How dare he? I wonder how Pharaoh failed at trying to kill Moses. And also Moses must have had like he must have had some like killing skills, like to look this way, look that way. And how did he quickly kill someone and hide them? Like that's a lot of strength. And for him to run away from Pharaoh, like I'm like, how many gods are you running away against? Like, is he doing like kung fu, karate, kickboxing thing there? Like, now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water the father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. So here's Moses again. This is funny. As I'm reading this, I'm starting to see Moses in a different light altogether. Whatever he did to drive them away, maybe he fought them. But he came to their rescue and he watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, I don't know how to say his name, Reuel, their father, he asked them, why have you returned so early today? They answered, an Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock. So the father says, and where is he? Reuel asked his daughters. Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat. Moses agreed to stay with the man, who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. So it's really interesting. Then he says, like, bring him in. Let's be polite to this man. And he must have really like saw a good man in Moses for him to think it's okay to give him away to his daughter and stuff. So he sees a good man and is like, yeah, my daughter can marry him. So he lets one of his daughter to marry him, and Moses gets married to this lady Zipporah, and they have a child, and the child is, I guess, shows his identity because he says, I've become a foreigner in a foreign land. Which is also interesting because Moses grew up as a foreigner in a foreign land, and now he has a child and he names him that. So it just shows how much of like a foreigner he feels. Like even in his own home, which was Pharaoh's house, he was a foreigner, right? Because he was a Hebrew and he was in an Egyptian home, and to his people he was like a foreigner because they're like, you didn't grow up with us, you are with the enemy. And then now he's in another place as well where he's a foreigner. So it's like, yeah, being, I guess it has like probably does have a longing to have a place called home and to be in his homeland. And I wonder if the Hebrews knew where the homeland was, because this is like years after Joseph passed away, and all those people of Joseph's generation. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. Yay! It's good. The evil king died. But the people were still in slavery, and they were still crying, and they were crying to God, and God heard them, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham. So I think it was somewhere in Genesis maybe, where God spoke to Abraham and he gave him promises. But God also told Abraham about this time. So if you go back in Genesis with one of the meetups that Abraham has with God, or the conversation that he has with God, God tells him about what's going to happen years later. But anyways, God looks on them and he's concerned about them. He hears them because of their slavery, right? It says their cry for help because of their slavery went to God. And they groaned in their slavery and they cried out, and God eventually helped them. And it's a really difficult thing, because it's like, God, why did you wait so long until you could help? I mean, yeah, it's hard, but you heard. And it makes me think of even like our history, as Africans. Like, slavery went on for so many years, and I would really like to believe that, the people were crying out to God and praying, right? We know how some of the gospel songs and all of that came out during that time. There were a lot of believers, and they were crying and groaning to God to help, and God saw it, and he was concerned, and he did something about it. So I think one of the things that challenges me is looking at history and being like, but God, and seeing that God made a way in it. Like, we don't have the same thing happening. Like, slavery did come to an end. And yes, today we have many other issues and all of that. And I think it's something that we continue bringing to God and crying about it, like, God, please, you can see where I am, whatever it is that you're struggling with. Don't be shy in crying to God, and don't be discouraged by the length of time that it takes to get out of it. Just have faith that God sees and he will do something about it, because he's a covenant keeping God. And if there's promises in this word, in this Bible, that he says it will come to fruition. And I think for some of the Hebrews, like, something that we have to acknowledge is that they were crying, and they probably didn't get to see that freedom, but their tears and their cries reached God, and it helped the next generation. The next generation got to walk out and see the promised land, right? Like, the tears of the moms that cried and all of that, like, their great grandchildren would have a different future than them, right? So, like, sometimes it's like, when we are facing a situation now, it's easy to just look at it for now, like, this is my struggle, it's affecting me this way. But another thing is that when God gives a solution, not only is that solution gonna affect you and change things for now, it changes things for the future. And I don't know I don't know what you think, but maybe I'm just reaching too far. But I think the prayers of the people behind us, and their tears and them crying to God and all of that, they got answered, most of them, in us. They never got to see what we see today. They never got to see freedom like we have freedom today. It might look different, I know, like, it's like, oh well, I don't know about that, but like, in terms of how far we've gone, we get to see that. And the challenges that we have now, we can also pray about it and cry to God about it, that even if we don't see the change, that our children and our children's children and our children's children's children get to see that. Like, it's not a solution that only gives relief for now, like, but it gives a relief, a long-term relief. Because I think in a situation like that, we'd think like, oh, it's okay, like, God just ends slavery, right? But essentially what God did is he used one man, Moses, and other people who came after him, like who led with him, but he used that man to take his people and bring them to a different land, and all of that. Well, we'll get into that later, but yeah, and it's interesting what God uses and who God uses, because I think for Moses it's most probably like, God, why me? Why? Like, why? And I wonder if there were times where he thought, you know what, it would have been better for me to be thrown in the Nile. It would have been better for me not to live, not to survive, than to live this hard life of just being in difficulty. Like, and it sounded like Moses loved his people. It sounded like he really loved the Hebrews, but they didn't recognize that, and it makes sense because they came from a place of pain. So when they see him, and they probably just get more mad and stuff. And you could imagine, like, some people watch their children being killed, and then they see one child, you know, being raised and alive in the enemy's house. We don't know how that felt like for the other people. And another thing is Moses going out into, I guess he'd also go out and see what's happening and try to talk to the Hebrews and stuff, but they wouldn't be men his age because his generation has been murdered and stuff, and we don't know for how long, because we don't know how much older his sister was than him, right? Because I mean, they got married and it must have been a couple of years before they had Moses, right? So we don't know how long, maybe 10 years of genocide. I don't know how long it has been, but there was a huge age gap in terms of his peers, and I don't even know if there was hatred in him, or he was loving to his to his adopted family or not. Like, I think it's a very difficult position for Moses to have grown up in, but he grew up in it, and his character is quite amazing, because he could have denied himself. He could have been, he could have just dressed up like an Egyptian and lived like an Egyptian, but he didn't. He really loved his people, and he loved them so much to the point of killing someone for them, like being so mad that he killed someone. Like, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And yeah, just excited to go. If you're excited to learn more, to go through the Bible with me, let's do it. Let's get in the Bible together, and next time we'll do Exodus 3, and share points down below of what you've learned through this study, and what stuck out to you, what do you feel God is saying to you, and all of that. And that's it from me. See you in my next video. See you in my next video. 再见。